Municipal Elections 2021. Know the politics and make a difference. Radio 786, 100.4 FM.
At the seat of power in the City Council building, where come November the 1st, this building could look very differently, and we are of course talking to some of the big wigs ahead of the elections on November the 1st. I have with us here from the Democratic Alliance, Councillor Zahid Badruddin. We have from the Good Party, Brett Heron. The ACDP's Grant Haskin is here, and the Cape Coloured Congress's Fadil Adams, and the thorn or the rose amongst my panelists, Fiona Abrams from the African National Congress. We are in the last swing of our debate this morning, and of course it's been a very interesting debate so far, and this segment of our debate is going to be looking at the local economy and more so issues around the informal economy and traders. We'll speak a bit about sustainable job creation and so on, and I'd like to maybe just start off with you, Grant. How we see the state of the economy and what role local government can play in stimulating job creation.
Well, in the 2020 budget last year, May, the mayor decided that in the middle of this pandemic, with everybody, well, so many more people joining the unemployment queue, he decided that the mayoral's job creation project would in fact try and achieve fewer jobs created in the next 3 years rather than more. So he's now, in this current financial year, trying to create fewer jobs than in 2014-15. That's an indictment on the city. That's the way the city is responding to the unemployment crisis in the city of Cape Town, with, let's not forget, the rates accounts, the increases in the cost of living that the city is imposing. What the ACDP believes in is small business development. The small businesses need to be empowered. But what we see now is red tape that comes in from the city, from national and provincial, that isn't being taken away, so that small businesses can actually function. So they're being stifled out. What we want to do is we want to remove that red tape and ensure that small businesses in the city, including food traders, stalls on the side of the road, they need to be able to trade. They need to be able to fend for their families. We need to make it possible for them in the city of Cape Town. The ACDP will do that.
Can we say when you get rid of the red tape, what exactly are you referring to, and how? How do you make that a bit more inclusive?
Well, look, there's a limited role that the city can do in terms of small business facilitation. We can't create jobs for them. Small businesses need to create the jobs. They need to be empowered to do that, right? What the city can do is make sure that they're not hounded out of their businesses through the exorbitant prices of existing in this city of Cape Town. That's the first thing they need to do. The second thing they need to do is ensure that traders are able to work in communities where there is actually economic growth and development, rather than being pushed out to the outskirts of where the real economic hubs are. If we've got an economic hub here, this is where the traders need to be, not stuck at home in the suburbs where there's nobody. Right? So we need to reimagine where people can work in the city of Cape Town. They need to be able to work and have their small business closer to home, not further away.
Grant Haskin there for the ACDP. Let's go to you, Brett. Economic activity, and how do we actually, what role do you see council play in generating jobs?
I think that council can play both a direct and an indirect role in creating jobs, and a massive role, and it has a responsibility and a duty to do so. The level of unemployment, poverty and hunger is unbelievable, and Cape Town is currently the most food insecure city in the country. It's almost 20% of our households have no food or are food insecure, which is an unacceptable statistic when we have 19 billion rand in the bank. So our program would start with infrastructure. We have a massive underdevelopment in the majority of our communities. Roads are broken, sewers are leaking, children's play parks are killing children when they go and play in those parks because the equipment is so poorly maintained. So we must decide that there's one standard of infrastructure for our city. Those communities that have that infrastructure, we should maintain it. That would create jobs through the maintenance of infrastructure. Those communities that do not have that standard of infrastructure, we must build it or repair it. That will create jobs. So we must invest in infrastructure because it will create a better living environment for our communities, but it will also, the construction sector creates massive amounts of jobs, both on the construction site and in the supply chain. Then we must look after our small traders, our micro traders and our informal traders. And we have the city currently serving notices of people who repair cars in the backyard, for example, in Mannenberg, telling them they have to shut down their business because they're not allowed to trade from their homes. But the city doesn't provide another space for them to trade from.
Correct.
So we would have to invest, and we would invest in trading spaces for small businesses so that they can trade without having to pay high street rentals, which are unaffordable for startups and small traders. And then we must look after the markets we have. I don't know when last you were on the Hanover Park market, the one behind the taxi terminus. I mean, it's a bustling market on Saturdays. In the week, it's a few people selling fruit and vegetables. But have you seen the toilets? They've been burnt out for 3 years. I've been fighting with the city for 3 years just to fix the toilets. They're burnt out, there's flies and infestation in those toilets, you can't use them. When the traders themselves wanted to repair the toilets on that Hanover Park market, they were told they were not allowed to because it's city property. But the city doesn't repair it in 3 years. So let's look after our market spaces that exist so that our traders can trade in dignity and the people who shop there can shop there in dignity. Let's build new trading spaces for those people who've been told you cannot trade from your home. And let's invest in infrastructure that is missing in many communities, and that will create jobs in the construction sector.
Fiona Abrams for the African National Congress.
Local economy can only be developed when we actually achieve the inclusive city. And that has not been achieved. Our role is to create an enabling environment for local contractors, for small businesses. Our local contractors are not getting big contracts. They're always the subcontractors, always the ones that needs to do the job, but the big ones are getting the money. So how do we expand the economy? It's by providing support to small and medium SMMEs, and the city is selective in that support. And we've seen it. We need to start to use local contractors for the maintenance of the rental stock, for mowing parks, for cleaning the streets, and not abuse EPWP for that. And this will improve our local economy and it will achieve the inclusive city. This should be fairly spent amongst all local contractors in particular areas. Currently, EPWP is being misused in the city. You will see just before
Can I ask you how?
I'm going there. You will see just before the end of the financial year, you will see lots of people on the street for that month or two, just to spend the budget. EPWP was designed to transfer skills. It was designed to have a longer working period in order to transfer skills. But now what you see is, just before the end of the financial year, you see Women for Change, you see streets being cleaned, and then the contract is only a month, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks. So what skills has been transferred to young people, to women? What skills has been transferred? And EPWP is currently misused by the city and even big contractors because they don't pay the people what should be paid. They are using the EPWP stipend. And what skills transferal has that been transparent in?
Well, I'll add to that, and something for you to take note of, Dr. Badruddin. In my area, for instance, I haven't seen an EPWP worker for several months, if not a year or two. Suddenly, I see them carving out paths for people to walk, taking out grass and things like that. And again, it does look very curious that how close to the proximity to an election this certainly is. But I'll make a note of that, please, and then you can respond to it as well. Fadil Adams for the Triple C.
I'm going to speak to my constituency.
Go for it.
I walk in that door. I also came through the garage. Not a single colored person working here that I've seen this morning. There must be, but not that I've seen. Not this morning. Maybe I wasn't looking hard enough. But nobody on this panel is going to tell me that demographically colored people are represented in the city of Cape Town. No one. That's number one. Number two, I'm going to use something very close to my home, the Mitchells Plain Town Centre. Supposedly the economic hub of Mitchells Plain. Derelict, should actually be thrown down if you looked at it. Taken over by foreign nationals, most of them undocumented, but that's not the point. Now you take a colored boy, and this is something that we've all seen, and he buys a bag of onions and he makes 5 rand packets and he sets up a little store. Law enforcement is there same day to tear it down.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yet, meters away, undocumented people own shops, city property. The city does nothing.
Yeah.
The city hasn't lifted a finger to make the Mitchells Plain Town Centre safe. Why not? Because that would encourage our people to come back and trade there like we used to 20 years ago. But there's a promenade up the road now, and big white business makes their money there. So it is in their interest that the town centre does not flourish. Why would they want the money in my hands or yours? It makes no sense, not to the city of Cape Town.
Yeah.
So what we're saying is, while the city of Cape Town must never be an employment entity, it does have a responsibility to create the type of environment that is conducive to business flourishing. We must get rid of these restrictive apartheid bylaws that keep us from starting little businesses and growing little businesses. Like Brett Eden said, my inbox is full of panel beaters and mechanics just trying to eke out a living from home because I cannot afford a workshop.
Yeah.
But law enforcement has just fined me for not being able to afford a workshop. Yet they offer me no alternative. Now, as I sit here, I've been watching Mr. Badruddin. I didn't watch him, I saw it. As he's taking notes from his cell phone. It's probably JP sending the messages. I'm keen to get the response.
Councillor Badruddin, over to you.
I'm actually very happy to share my messages with Fadil.
I
haven't opened any of them yet. It's residents looking for me. But also messages from my colleagues saying I'm doing a good job here today. So I'm very grateful for that.
No,
but in terms of the local economy,
you are bringing the tea tray very well today. I'll do that.
And you see, that's an insult to me, Tasharik, as an insult. I myself, a person of color, have studied 6 years to become a doctor. And he's here saying next to me that I'm not capable enough to sit here because there's someone on top of me telling me what to say. That's an insult to every single person of color that has to listen to this nonsense that comes from this good, CCC member sitting next to me.
I have found every response of you to be insulting towards people of color
today. In terms of the local economy, the city must.
I have found your response and your defense of white privilege insulting as a man of color.
Let him go. Councillor Badruddin,
the city must make it easy for businesses, for residents to do business.
Yeah, like
nationally, 35% unemployment rate. In our city, this is 23%. In our city, nationally, 4 out of every 5 people can't access a job. Look, we've halved that basically in the city of Cape Town. So we definitely have to continue to cut red tape. We will do that wherever possible. We definitely have to be able to continue to create a culture within the administration that supports business development. By the way, over the past 5 years, 40,000 people have been employed through this city, helping them to find jobs, helping them to become trained in order to be ready for work. 22.68 billion rand worth of commercial investments, international, domestic investments into our city alone. We are, by the way, within the top 150 cities in the world for startups, and we are, in terms of innovation, we're the most innovative city in Africa. These are the facts that are put out there into the public to be able to see exactly what our achievements are.
Can I ask?
And by the way, if I can quickly, I hear the message about local labor, local contractors. The city does that. The city must do that because before any contract is signed with any organization, with any company, there must be a local labor content to that. By the way, for the council who doesn't know, the city is also investing 50 million rand into the upkeep and the refurbishment, rehabilitation of CRUs using local labor. We are definitely committed to making sure that we can make it easier to do business in our city.
I have also a couple of questions, right? I want to know why does the city harass people that stand on the corner at the robot trying to sell fruit and those sorts of questions. I want to come back to that, right? But evidently on the point here about the upgrades, let's go to you, Fadil.
Man is talking about local labor. First, let me applaud Dr. Badruddin for studying 6 years and becoming a medical doctor. You know what? Well done. But now let us just talk about the lie. The city talks about local labor, that it enforces local labor. Why was I in court last year with the city of Cape Town? Because I stopped the contract because no locals were working there. They had the audacity to take me to court because they weren't doing their job. The man speaks about X amount of billions invested for startup businesses, but the businesses flourishing in the city are all big and white.
Nonsense.
The man talks about the amount of unemployment in the city. You know who's not struggling to find a job in the city of Cape Town? Is white males. This building where I'm sitting, go upstairs, go to executive block. It is dominated by white management.
Nonsense.
Zaid, 50% of all people occupying those
I'm
places
happy to
are
take
white
you to
males.
their floor
Yes,
and you
we
can
will
see.
go.
I'm happy.
Then I want to also say, he spoke about 150 million rand for CRU development.
50.
Ask him, 150?
50.
Ask him to speak about the 600 million stolen in 2013 by friends of the DA, ACOM and Oricon. The thing that we sent to the mayor, sent to the premier, got no response. The question we asked
Stolen?
is, we sent those documents
Where's
with
the
proof.
evidence?
Go ask your mayor, go ask your premier.
Where's the evidence?
Go ask your mayor, go and ask your premier. Go ask your
Why
bosses.
have you not reported this to the police?
We are busy with
No,
commercial
you
crime,
should have
sir.
done it when you
At
had
any
the
rate,
evidence.
what he's saying is they are about to invest 150 million. We are telling you that 600 million was stolen by two companies, ACOM
Open
and
up a
Oricon.
case.
Listen to me. I'm saying it on air, so if I'm lying, they can sue me. But they are still working for the same city of Cape Town. It is okay when big white business steals from the poor. And this man over here is going to attempt to defend this with his degree.
Open up a case. You've got evidence. Open up a
Fiona,
case.
let me come to you. Fiona Abrams for the ANC.
You know, I don't know where Dr. Barondin is staying. Clearly not
Not on
in,
Athlone.
not in Cape
Athlone.
Town. Maybe on another Cape Town. Maybe there's two types of Cape Town. Because where I come from, you see how local contractors are fighting with current contractors coming from outside. You see how they're protesting in front of sub-councils. You see how they're chasing people out of the rental stock because they want to paint it. And by the way, upgrade of CRUs, it's only painting of flats outside so that it looks good.
No.
But inside, it's rotting.
No.
Inside, your electricity wiring is not working. Inside, your sewage system is not working. Inside, your pipes, your water pipes is not working.
Yeah.
And why can't we use local labor? You know, we have this nice thing of flat committees. Why can't flat committees be empowered to fix their own flats? You can use that as local labor. But clearly, Dr. Barondin is not staying in Cape Town. He's staying somewhere else because he doesn't know what's happening on the ground. Where is that 40 million being spent? It's not on our local contractors. They are still not even compliant. Why can't the city not assist local contractors in being compliant? That is how we're going to create an enabling environment for local contractors.
Okay. Bridge Heron for the Good Party.
Yeah, Tashriq, you know, I mean, when I was at university in the 80s, Sociology 1, there's a book that we had to study called How to Lie with Statistics.
You passed that course.
How to lie with
passed that
stats.
course.
And you know what?
And he passed it.
When you listen
He
to
just said he's a
the
facts.
DA,
So
Let's
when you
just-
listen to the
makes you
DA, can I just
uncomfortable.
Let's
speak?
give Brent
When you
an
listen to the
opportunity
to
DA, most innovative city, best run city, most financially sustainable,
Yes, say
that
it
book
again.
always pops into my head because it is not the lived experience of the majority of the people
Yes.
in the city. Those are statistics. And and I'm sorry to say this, but the media is complicit in perpetuating this myth that Cape Town is the best run city based on all these statistics. But you need to go into communities and see that it's not the lived experience of the majority of the people in the city. And let's just take one example. When we were put into lockdown in March 2020, hard lockdown, informal trading was initially shut down as well. And then the minister changed the regulations to allow informal trading to continue. It took the city of Cape Town 8 weeks to start to issue permits. I helped a woman for 4 weeks as she was chased from one building to the other to get her permit just to trade selling fruit and vegetables on the side of the road. 8 weeks plus 4 weeks, 12 weeks after those regulations were changed, and this woman still couldn't get a permit. This is not a city that supports micro traders, small traders, and local contractors. This is not a city that does that, despite what all the stats say.
8 weeks, Councillor Badrin. I'll come to you, Grant, just now.
So, Tashriq, I hear what is being said about the informal trading.
Are you going to listen though?
I absolutely listen, and that's how I'm going to respond, because I'm listening. And I understand the apprehension around these excellent statistics that I'm sharing, because it makes those next to me uncomfortable. But the fact of
It
the matter
doesn't.
is...
It's
Can
the
you
fact-
respond to the 8 weeks issue?
The
The
what,
8
sorry?
weeks, the fact that it took the city so long.
No, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. And so it's important to acknowledge firstly that the city works very closely with the informal traders. We subsidize the permits needed to ensure that they're able to do the trade that they'd like to do in whatever the community it is that they choose to be in. We won't force them to go to whatever area. But it's important to also add that at that time of the hard lockdown, the city could not, it would be irresponsible of the city to simply say, here is a permit, go out and trade. At that stage, and you will recall, and everyone here next to me will recall, that it was the responsibility of the city and partners to make sure that the necessary COVID measures were in place. COVID measures that included the screens, the masks, the gloves, the sanitizer. By the way, things
Doesn't
that
take
we had
much.
given
How much
to
of that did you
every
supply?
single informal trader who made use of these opportunities through the Economic Opportunities and Asset Management Directorate, which is driven by my colleague Alderman James Force. PPE that is made available for free to these informal traders who utilized that service. So we knew
No,
that when
that's
we
not the
issued
truth.
the permit to these traders, that they were not putting their own life in harm's way, but also not also,
But does it take
making
2
it unsafe
months
to
to do
trade.
that? Does it take 2 months to do that, to source PPEs and to issue permits? And because then it doesn't sound like you guys are very much
issuing of the
efficient.
permits is not the issue. Sourcing the necessary PPE in order to issue the permits to make sure that our traders and our residents are safe, unfortunately, it does take time in terms of procuring, but we've done that. We're able to ensure that they were able to trade safely. And so I hear the unhappiness that it took some time, but I can say to you confidently today that had we not done that at the very beginning, we as a city should regard ourselves as irresponsible.
Okay.
And we're certainly not, because we
Grant
help
Haskin for the
traders to trade.
ACDP. Grant?
Look, it's very clear that the city needs a new government.
Yes.
We can't carry on operating like this. This is smoke and mirrors that we've been talking about for years, that the DA engages in all the time. The truth is not the truth to the DA, it's the DA's only. They make up all sorts of things. What we need in the city of Cape Town is a God-fearing government that actually listens to the people, that delivers services, that cares, that produces a safe city that we can live and work in, and that is an affordable city for people to live in. The ACDP offers that to the city of Cape Town's residents.
Okay, Brett, you wanted to respond?
Yes, I wanted to say that at the time when the Minister of Cogta lifted the ban on informal trading as part of the amended regulations, and I was trying to assist people to get their permits, the story that I hear now is not the story that I was told then. Back then, the city was saying, we're trying to understand what the minister means by these regulations. We've reached out to the Department of Cogta to find out what she means. I mean,
2
it was
months.
all nonsense. They just didn't want to do it. It's not about PPE. At the time, they were saying, we don't understand what the minister means by lifting this ban on trade regulations. It was nonsense. They just didn't care and they didn't want to do it. And that is the overall attitude that you get from the DA and government right now. They don't care because they're very comfortable in their incumbency.
Okay, I want to go to, just on this note, and you can respond to that in the questions I'm going to put to you now, Councillor Badruddin. I want to pivot to the very contentious bylaw that has been, in recent weeks, been causing quite a bit of debate, right? And in part it deals with homeless people, in part it deals, with also sort of the noise nuisance and, whether if a mosque or a church bell can be a nuisance. And previously you said that mosques should be exonerated or religious institutions should be exonerated. That has not been reflected in the bylaw, to be quite frank, right? But I want to sort of work in there as well what I raised earlier, the fact that Metro Police finds it so confident and law enforcement to just go and find people left, right and centre, people that are trying to sell fruit at the robots, people that are trying to make do with their lives, and they just get fined all the time. I'm trying to understand what is the incentive or the disincentive here by this approach, which here on my WhatsApp line is being described as very kragtadig on the part of the city of Cape Town.
So, if I can, Tashrik, there's two separate issues here that you're raising. It's the matter of the homeless people, and there's also the matter of the Adhan. Can I respond to both? Or
Go for it.
Okay, so I'll start in with the matter of the Adhan. And we've made it very
clear. Or the
clear.
church bell or the synagogue,
Or
yeah.
any
All
religious
institutions, yeah.
Any religious sound. And so we've made it very clear from the beginning, and you're right, I've been on your show, where I've said to you and all your listeners that the Adhan will always be protected in this multi-diverse, culturally beautiful city of Cape Town, because that is how world cities over recognize us for our cultural diversity. The fact of the matter here is, my good friend over here, Brett Heron, is in the business of fear-mongering, making people scared, using religion to win political votes. And part of that is to scare our Muslim community into fearing that the adhan will be silenced. I've been a MACO member for 3 years. One of the first issues that was brought to me was the Bayview adhan. The next big one was the Mew Street Mosque, and there were a couple others. Which one of those adhans have ever been turned off? The bylaw amendment, by the way, dealt nowhere close with those sections of the bylaw, dealt specifically with the next section that I'll go into the moment. I'm covered when the MJC Deputy President says to me that he's confident that the City of Cape Town is going to, in the new term, amend the bylaw. I'm comfortable. I don't need the Ayatollah Brett Heron to tell me what he's going to change or not change, when I know exactly what the City of Cape Town under the DA government will do when we come back into power. So I'm confident that the adhan is protected. I'm confident that the adhan is protected. So too church bells, and so too any other religious. Are they protected in the
legislation?
Excuse me?
Are they protected in the legislation?
So, by the way, Brett Heron again misleads our community. Misleads the community to suggest that a bylaw has the capacity to protect whatever noise. What Brett Heron doesn't say is that it's the Western Cape noise regulations, that allow for a local government to determine, which sound is exempted. And so this is the commitment that we've made to the MJC. And again, I'm covered. The Deputy President...
You made that commitment to me and on radio before the bylaw was passed.
I'm going to come to it now. And so the Deputy President, in his confidence, has said that he's comfortable, and so I'm comfortable. In terms of my commitment, 100%, and I accept that I did make that commitment, and I still stand by that commitment. The fact of the matter here is that at that stage, the city was needing to update a part of the bylaw only that didn't need to go through many processes or verifications. Why?
So what was the rush? What was the rush?
The rush was for us to be able to...
people off the...
No.
You see, your
the
yes
rush
must
was
be
for
yes
us to be able to ensure that we can protect our public spaces, so that our residents can make use of our parks, public open spaces, and so that our residents are safe in our communities. Let me further clarify, It is wrong and a lie for Brett Heron to say that we're fining homeless people, that we're making homelessness
But it
a
is
criminal
true. That's what
offense.
the bylaw is
Let me help my
saying.
colleague who doesn't understand the bylaw.
But that's
What
what the bylaw
happens
is
here,
saying.
in the bylaw, we're clear. If you urinate in public, if you make structures in public,
If you're
if
poor in
you make
public.
fire in public,
you're
if
poor
you
in
obstruct the public space and
You are
whatever,
looting.
you are committing an offense. The same way, if you urinate in public, you will go through the necessary bylaw process. There's one rule of law in our country, and everybody must be treated accordingly. But let me continue.
Quickly.
Our amendment made it compulsory for social services to be offered to homeless people, made it compulsory. On any given day, there's between 80 and 100 bed spaces for homeless people to utilize in our city of Cape
There
Town.
was also 40 million rand worth of tents for homeless people that he constructed.
By the
He made
way,
it compulsory
Brett Heron will
for homeless
also
to be
mislead
thrown
you.
into-
But
Homeless
Brett Heron
people
will-
to
let me
contract
finish
COVID
this.
and die
Let me
that
finish.
he constructed.
Brett Heron will also mislead you to suggest that the city controls shelter spaces. We don't. In
So
the
why
space
do
of
you
3
offer that
years, in the
space?
space of 3 years,
You fund
we've
shelters.
opened
So
up
why do-
safe spaces.
They fund
We've
shelters.
opened up safe spaces where over or just under 1,000 temporary beds are available for homeless people
Sure.
to access. You show me a city that's
Councillor,
doing
let's go to
this.
Brett
No
Heron.
other city
Brett Heron
does.
for the good party.
Yeah, thanks, Tashreeq. I think let's start with the noise nuisance the noise nuisance part of the bylaw. You recall that in 2019 there was the complaint against the District 6 Mosque for the call to prayer, Adhan, and the city served a notice on the mosque in the holy month of Ramadan that there had been a noise disturbance complaint lodged against it by one resident
Not true.
who probably moved
Not
into
correct.
the District 6 area.
Actually incorrect.
And the city acted on that complaint.
Absolutely
it served
not.
a notice on the
Factually
mosque,
incorrect.
and the mosque made it public.
Factually
What happened then
incorrect.
was Councillor
misleading again.
Kasim,
You're
Aslan
misleading.
Kasim, said in the public that he was going to ask the DA caucus to amend the noise nuisance and streets public bylaw, the same bylaw that was amended last month, to exempt churches and mosques from the noise disturbance part of the bylaw. Then Councillor Badruddin made the same commitment. He said on your radio station that he was going to champion that the call to prayer and church bells were going to be exempt as a noise disturbance in the definition, as provided for in the Western Cape noise regulations. Then Councillor Intlabashe, who chairs the committee that amended this bylaw, said that he would start the public participation process in February 2020, and he expects that the exemption would be in place by July 2020. Now in October 2021, they adopt the bylaw, or September 2021, they amend the bylaw, but they leave out the noise disturbance part completely. There's no rational reason for leaving it out. It would have taken one line.
Yes.
One line in the
Correct.
bylaw to say, we exempt places of worship or mosques or churches, however you want to describe it, from this noise disturbance component of the bylaw. One line.
For which the DA has a
And they
majority
didn't
to do.
So why didn't they do it? There was nothing stopping them doing it. They had 2 years to work on it. And now they're saying they're going to do it next year. Why next
When
year?
they come
Why
back.
not now?
I know you want to respond, Councillor
No,
Badruddin, but
I
I want to go.
want to come to the homeless people. What the city is doing is, first of all, there's 14,000 people
No,
apparently
that's
living on
not
the
true.
streets.
That's the wrong
And
number. You're misleading the
By
public
Councillor
again.
Badruddin's own admission, they've created 1,000 safe space beds, which is really camping under the highways
Not true
here.
again.
And
Is it not
Go
true? Because
visit.
you say so.
at the same
Not because
time, they're
it's
saying to people, you cannot live on the street.
He doesn't know.
And if you live on the street, we will offer you an alternative place. But you can't offer 14,000 people an alternative
Not
place
14,000.
if you've only got 1,100 beds.
Not
The
14,000.
second part is on Wednesday, I was called to Bottesig because law enforcement had arrived at a field where homeless people were living. And when law enforcement heard that I was coming, what they didn't do was demolish the tents, but what they did do was issue fines. So it's a
homeless
lie when he says that they don't fine homeless people.
They don't
They
issue
issued a fine on
fines
Wednesday in
immediately.
Bottesig.
But they do fine.
finally, I want to say-
Earlier you said, to be fair, earlier you said you don't find homeless people, but now you're saying we don't find them immediately.
But
Yes,
Tashrik,
and I
I
want
need
you
to
to allow me
finish.
to
You're
explain
using
the
the word
process.
fluid now.
Tashrik, I need to
No,
finish.
I'm not fluid.
Okay,
You're right.
I'll get you
and
to
nothing's
this.
changed.
I'll get you to
So they
respond to
fined
that.
someone on Wednesday, just Wednesday, 350 rand for living on a field.
A homeless person.
Now, the other thing that is happening now is the safe space. They're now issuing eviction notices to people in the safe space. They've been told that if you've been there 6 months, your time is up, you need to leave. So they've created this very vicious cycle where you may not live on the streets, but you may only be in the safe space for 6 months. So if you have nowhere else to go after 6 months,
Not true.
and you go back on the streets, you're going to get fined because you're not accepting a place in the safe space.
Not
But you've just been
true.
evicted from the safe space.
You don't
I received the
know.
notices from the people.
Okay,
They've
oh,
been given 6
man.
months to stay in the safe spaces,
Oh,
and then they must
no.
move out.
Let me come to Grant.
man.
Grant,
You see,
how nervous are you about this bylaw?
What we're dealing with here is a city whose yes is not yes and their no is not no. What you hear on the radio is not what is put in practice. What you hear in public from the DA is that they care for people. But look at last year. Strandfontein camp was opened and people were thrown into the back of trucks and buses, lost their possessions, dumped at Strandfontein homeless camp to catch COVID,
Oh my God, not one
totally
person
away
COVID.
from their families, totally away from the communities who do actually care for them. They were dumped, and then suddenly, a couple of weeks later, a month and a half later, 60 million rand later, if not more, spending it for a month and a half, they just get left alone. So what the ACDP wants to create is an opportunity for churches and religious institutions to be able to partner with the city to assist homeless people
Yes.
to be rehomed and to be facilitated with work opportunities and all of that kind of thing, medical attention where it's needed, etc. We've got a plan for that. But what we see in the city is a homeless action committee which exists but doesn't actually produce anything for the homeless people of Cape Town. The homeless action committees existed for 10, 12 years now, but they haven't taken a
Less than 1 year.
single homeless person. No, it was created in 2007.
No.
The Homeless
Which
Action Committee.
Are you referring
2007, they haven't taken a single homeless person off the street. They had no impact on this nuisances bylaw that we've been talking about. No impact. They couldn't care how that bylaw impacts the homeless people. They couldn't care. It's ineffective. What you hear in public is not what is practiced in public.
Just quickly,
and that is
just
the
quickly,
disparity we need to
I
remove
just
from the
want to
DA.
hear your take on the church bells, the adhan, the synagogues, etc. Do you believe that they are in harm's way with this particular bylaw?
Sorry?
Are they in harm's way with this bylaw? The church bells and
Look,
the
to the-
adhan and so on?
To the extent that that the city wants to limit the expression of religious, life,
Yes.
including in the form of noise, it shouldn't be limited. But everybody must have the opportunity to be able to express yourselves. Freedom of religion is a very important principle that this city isn't practicing.
Fiona Abrams for the ANC.
Yeah, I'm not going to repeat what my colleagues have said, but what I want to stress is the amount of money that we use to chase homeless and streetless people with fines and chasing them. We could have used that money to develop our local contractors. We could have used that money to make sure that youth development actually takes place. We could have used that money to make sure that there's skill centers so that we prevent school dropouts, so that we prevent in the first place that they are on the street. So the amount of money we spend on chasing street people. It's a huge chunk of the budget, and we could have used that for, our transport system. Just look at our local taxi owners or taxi drivers. They are suffering. So what happened if they don't have a job? They are losing their jobs. Car guards or sliding door operators. They are left on the streets. Later on, they became part of the street people. So if we use that money implementing this bylaw, we could have made huge impact in our local communities.
Fadil Adams for the Cape Coloured Congress.
Our religion and our freedom of religion is protected in the Constitution. So I'm unconcerned about any apartheid bylaw that the good doctor on my right might seek to defend. I've got absolutely no concern that there is no danger.
He's a doctor, but he doesn't want to be
Yes,
good.
not good.
Oh, sorry, Brett. My apologies. So, on that level, I actually don't have an issue.
Yeah.
The big question, the burning question here is, would these godless Zionists that run the DA ban the adhan or the church bells if they had a chance? The answer is yes.
Yes, they would.
There's no doubt about that.
Yes.
Not even the good doctor can deny that.
No.
I want to move on to the homeless issue. Only the city would take your house if you can't pay your water, render you homeless, and fine you for being homeless. Yes. There's no other place in the world this would happen. For all the other achievements the good doctor wants to list, he must admit that I live in a heartless place. That he is, after all, one of the chief architects of 42 million rand a month worth of tents. Tents that they could have bought for 4 million rand and didn't. They decided to rent it because this is a cash cow where the city of Cape Town will take my rates, my taxes, spend it on big white business while the poor suffer. People were, as Fiona rightly said, as Brent said, put on the back of trucks, forced into buses to come to a concentration camp in Strandfontein, right where I live, to come and contract or come and catch COVID.
Without consulting that community.
It is here. There's one of the people standing that runs a soup kitchen in Mitchell's Plain.
Yeah.
Where the people in that camp contacted him, asking him to bring them food. But 42 million rand was passed on to the rest of us as the bill for this. And here's the architect of that sitting right here.
Dr.
So,
Badruddin?
guys, what I'm saying is if you're looking for development and for humanity, the city of Cape Town is not the place to look for it.
The city of Cape Town or the DA?
Well,
No, the DA, we don't even have to talk about that.
the city of Cape
I
Town
want
should
to
be a place to look for it.
remind these colleagues sitting next to me that it was national government that instructed that safe spaces and shelter be made available.
Not tents.
Again, he's blaming.
Can I interject?
Again, he's
Let me help you. Let me help you.
Can-
The
can-
day
can-
after he erected that
Again,
Can
tent.
I ask, please? Let him respond. Let him respond.
But again, he's
because he's
blaming.
going that
Take
way. I want to give him the full
responsibility.
content.
Let him respond. Let
blaming
him
who
respond.
gave
No,
the
you take
instructions.
Chief, my chief,
Instructions.
before he goes, can I just
responsibility.
give you the full line so we can defend it?
Quickly.
Okay. So, on the day that they successfully opened this concentration camp, after all of us here had been agitating to use community centers, clinics,
Yes.
wherever,
Yes.
the DA went ahead, hotels that were closed, the
City
DA went
halls.
ahead and put up these tents because
City
it was a
halls.
money-making opportunity. But Felicity Purchase, his colleague, went on Facebook and said, we got rid of them, the homeless people. Now understand the agenda. It had nothing to do with COVID. It was about opportunity. We can rid our suburbs of this
Okay,
filth.
let's
National
please give you an
government,
opportunity to
national
respond.
government
Go for it, Dr.
instructed
Baldwin.
that spaces must be made available for homeless people. They instructed, by the way, the National Department of Social Development to do that, which they failed to do. So the City of Cape Town then
Again,
very
it's
quickly
blaming
acted
national
to be able to support our vulnerable homeless community. By the way, and yes, some more stats for those who want it, 1,858 people were screened for COVID. 0 people got COVID-19 while they were at the temporary emergency accommodation.
They got raped.
272 people were screened for TB and also treated for TB and also given
But what about
separate
the social
accommodation
issues?
in tents on the very same
But one of them got
facility
murdered.
away from the general individuals who were accessing our services. And by the way, because of Strandfontein, 1,352 homeless people had access now to chronic care, which they've never had before.
they didn't get food.
People who are still accessing
But they didn't
chronic
get
care.
food.
The food issue is an absolute lie. 4,500 warm meals a day was issued to
Then why-
homeless
then
people
why keep
at
the
the
Human Rights
facility?
Commission from doing an
So let me
investigation?
quickly add onto
If all
the
of this is
eviction.
true.
Quickly add on to the eviction that Brett Heron mentioned about our homeless people in the safe spaces. And by the way, I'm glad we didn't put people into community halls, because if we look at Johannesburg, if we look at Durban, those homeless people are still in their community halls. But what did we do in the city
put
of
them
Cape
back on
Town?
the street.
What did we
At
do
least
in the
they're not
city of
back
Cape
on the
Town?
street. At
What did
least
we
they're
do
in
in
a
the city
safe
of Cape Town?
space.
We opened up 3 new safe spaces, introducing just under 1,000 new temporary
And
beds.
the
You show me
evicted
where
workers.
that's being done elsewhere. On the issue of the evictions, we go into a contract with any person who accesses our safe spaces to say, when you're here, not only do you have accommodation, but you must access the rehabilitation services if you need it, by the way, which is free. You must make use of the social development programs, by the way, which is free. If you want to reintegrate or reunify with your community, if that's an option for you, by the way, we'll do that for you. We'll pay for your ID for you as well. And also the city will put aside 16 million rand to open up just under 1,000 new jobs for homeless people alone. Our last council
Where's the
meeting
proof?
approved the council agenda.
Where's the proof?
Go and read that. You'll have to read it
Where's
soon.
the proof?
So we're very serious about making sure that we help our vulnerable homeless community. We're very serious. Before a pre-compliance notice is issued to any homeless person, my homeless street people unit in social development will have at least 6 engagements with any homeless person in any community that they may find, so that we can establish a relationship with those homeless people. At a certain stage, we see that this is not an option for them. And then, by the way, the bylaw says we must make sure that we issue shelter or safe space
You were
provision
ordered to do so
them.
by a court,
If-
right?
if
You were
that-
ordered to do so
if-
by a court, to be clear.
If not accepted, then we go into the next stage. Pre-compliance, notice again, and then a fine, which the homeless
But to
person
be frank,
will have
Councillor
to
Baldwin,
determine
that's not
in the
something
court
to celebrate.
processes.
That's not something to
exactly.
celebrate. You were
That's
ordered to
allowed
do
to
so.
win.
You were
That's
ordered to
shame.
do so by a court of law. That's why.
What we must celebrate is that unlike any other city, we've set aside 27 million rand alone in the past 2 weeks to help our homeless community. 27 million rand, I celebrate that. I celebrate the fact that because of lobbying provincial government, we're opening up a new shelter in the
You have
city
to
of
lobby
Cape Town that's
provincial
able
government. You
to
can send an
help
email.
at least
Your government.
300 homeless people. I celebrate that. Where in any other city in this country is that being done? I have people, colleagues from as far as Limpopo, coming to see how we work with homeless people here, how we support our homeless
I don't
people,
know those
so that
colleagues,
they can then
Tajri,
take
Kanala.
that information back. But the truth of the matter is here, our residents don't want to see structures in our parks. Our residents, and I
Not
speak
our
to them.
residents.
No,
Your residents.
our
Leafy
residents.
suburbs.
Not
Leafy
at all.
suburbs.
Not at all. Brett Heron's lucky he lives in Bishop's Court. He
Leafy
really
suburbs.
sees homeless people. Our residents in the Cape Flats. Our residents in the Cape Flats, Tashrik, don't want parks to be overtaken by structures. Don't want fires to be made in our parks. Don't want homeless people urinating in our parks. We have to protect these spaces for our children, grandchildren, for our grannies and
But it's
for our
not
aunties and
happening.
uncles.
Okay.
And so therefore, we've amended the bylaw and we've made it compulsory for social development services to be offered to homeless people. So this nonsense about finding homelessness, I wish it stops. I wish my
No,
colleagues
it's not nonsense, it's the truth.
I wish
It's
my
the
colleagues
truth.
Find homeless people.
I wish my
That's
colleagues
not a
will stop
myth, that's
lying
the fact.
that we find homelessness. We don't.
Tajri,
It's a
If you
fact.
urinate in public,
immediately,
if you
but
have
it's
fire
a
in
fact.
public, if you put
Everybody
up
is a liar,
structures in
including you.
public, then you will be fined because you're violating
But
the bylaw.
Exactly.
Tashreeq,
Exactly.
the
Listen to
same
what
rule
he's
of law
saying.
applies. If you put the structure up, you're not homeless, you're going to receive the same services that the city offers to any person here. So what I'm saying is, let us not asphyxiate ourselves on the issue of a fine and forget the efforts in terms of social development before any compliance notice is issued. We're being disingenuous when you disregard social
let's wrap
development
up on this
interventions.
particular issue. We'll go one more round on this issue. Let's start with you, Grant Haskin, for the ACDP.
One more round?
On
the
just
same
wrapping up on
subject.
this issue, yes.
Look, this just points to the fact that, you can have you can have the best sounding policies in the world. It's the way it's implemented that is either caring and efficient and affordable, or it's not. And in this instance, anything to do with homelessness, anything to do with the poor is uncaring, unaffordable, and it's rough, it's harsh, it's intolerant. And that's what we have in the city of Cape Town, a city that will tick the box to say that we've 1,882 TB
All
tests,
homeless lives
fantastic.
matter.
But the process that these people have to go through in order to get that is not a caring city. It's not something. It's not respectful. There's no humanity in the way the city treats the people of Cape Town. Even those in the leafy suburbs don't get the kind of treatment that you're busy espousing here. What you're saying here would present the city as being the best run city in the world. It's not.
Brett
This is
Heron,
an appallingly run
for the
city.
good political party.
Look, I mean, I think there's two things. Badruddin says nobody wants to see homeless people in the parks and on their streets. And I think it's true that the people of Cape Town don't want to see homeless people living in those conditions. The part that was missing from his answer was that it's nobody's life ambition to live on the streets in those conditions. So the path that everybody takes to ending up on the street is unique to that individual. And if you're going to manage their rehabilitation and their social reintegration in a statistical way, like he's doing, saying 1,800 people got a COVID test, then you're not leading with the heart.
No.
We need to respond to the conditions and the circumstances that took each individual person to the street and assist them to find their path back in life to what they wanted to lead. And that means that you can't say you only have 6 months in the safe space, because maybe my personal circumstances take longer than 6 months to be resolved through the social programs.
Correct. That's what
So
you're
it is a heartless approach, and it is a krachtdadig approach, and it is a sort of self-fulfilling approach, because they are going to evict those people from the safe space, put them back on the street because they have nowhere else to go, and when they're on the street they're going to be told they're illegally on the street. So we must implement a more social services orientated approach to homelessness and not a policing response to homelessness. And then we will assist the people who are living on the streets, and we will assist those residents who are concerned about the conditions that people are living in when they are living on the streets.
Fiona Abrams for the ANC.
It's clear that it's criminal to be poor in Cape Town. That's clear. If you are homeless, if you are a street person, if you are roaming around, it's a crime in Cape Town. But you know what is evident and what is clear? The rush for the bylaw, because it was the pressure from the leafy suburbs. It was the pressure because who's roaming around in the streets, knocking on doors? It's in the leafy suburbs. So the pressure came from there to make sure that this bylaw is amended. Because in Sea Point, in Tableview, that is where the homeless go, look for a piece of bread, look for a job. So that is why this bylaw has been implemented in Cape Town. It's not for Atlantis or Mitchells Plain or Athlone. It's precisely implemented for the leafy suburbs.
Fadil Adams, Cape Coloured Congress.
I agree with the doctor. Our people do not want to see homeless people in our parks. We don't want it. You know what we want? We want to see homeless people being housed, not budgets being rolled over or housing budgets being returned. But on that issue, you know, most homeless people in Cape Town happen to be coloured. But put up a structure, coloured man, and the city of Cape Town will throw it down. The DA will throw it down. But a black man is entitled to putting up a structure and nothing happens in general. I want to take that a little bit further and say to the good doctor, myself and Councillor Haskins were at that concentration camp, that crime against humanity that he erected. And the law enforcement there pulled guns on us. They would not let us enter. They didn't want anyone to see what was happening inside.
I
The
got
Human
inside.
Rights Commission was denied access. These people, the DA, they broke the law by denying the Human Rights Commission access. When the Human Rights Commission was eventually allowed to go in, they came out and issued a statement that what happened in there was criminal. I'm sitting next to a criminal. I'm not proud of it. And the man sits here and he tries to justify. He says that national government gave the directive for that crime to happen. National government also said under lockdown level 5, close the beaches. The DA didn't listen to that directive, did they? They are very selective. No. Becky Chele had to come to that beach and tell JP, no, PJ, you close this beach or I'll close it
We
for
were
you.
the second city in the
So what
country
I'm
to close
saying
beaches.
is that they are very selective in the directives that they follow. You see, in this city of Cape Town, the DA will take all credit for everything good. But when something bad happens, you believe that they are in opposition because then it's national government's fault.
All right, let's conclude it on that note, right? So can we do the following, right? Let's wrap up with just trying to respond to some of these, try and work it in your responses. But tell to the listeners of Radio 786 and to the potential voters what fundamentally your party can bring to council. Yes, there are lots to nitpick and there are lots to rightfully raise in regards to how the city functions, how the DA government functions. But I want to hear from your party, what is it that you think fundamentally you can bring for the voters of Cape Town? Let's start with Grant Haskin for the ACDP.
The ACDP is a Christian democratic party in Africa. So we're offering the ratepayers of Cape Town God-fearing leaders with integrity. We're not corrupt, we're honest, we're servants. We want to protect and serve the ratepayers of Cape Town. We want to make sure Cape Town is an affordable city to live in, a safe city to live in, an inclusive city. Everybody can live their life in a safe and affordable city. We want to make sure that as a city that we listen to ratepayers. What you've just read out now is not new. This is the same ratepayers saying these things year after year after year, these kinds of messages. And the city just doesn't listen. There's no opportunity, there's no interaction, there's no sense of partnership between the city and the ratepayers of Cape Town. And so the ratepayers feel abused. We as the ACDP are going to change that. We're going to partner with the cities and we're going to make sure that the poorest amongst us are served by the city in a way that cares and respects them and where they are and helps them to improve in terms of things like small business and just the ability to live in a city that respects and appreciates and celebrates our differences. We're very different in who we are, but we should have and we must search for one city with unity, and we must move away from narratives that seek to separate us into so many different compartments, including gender and including race and religion. We need to move towards a future that all of us are living and working in unity towards one goal, and that is a prosperous city. That's what the ACDP brings to this. Honesty with the ratepayers of Cape Town.
Grant Haskin there for the ACDP, good party leader and medal candidate for the city of Cape Town, Brett Heron.
Thanks, Tashreeq. I think we're asking voters to consider this, that we have lived under a DA city government for 15 years now, and all of us, no matter where we live in the city, can pause and think about whether the city that we're living in is the city that we've been promised and the city that we hope to live in after 15 years of DA government. And I think no matter where you live in the city, your answer is probably going to be no. This is not what we dreamed of. This is not what we voted for when we voted for the DA over the last 3 local government elections. So on the 1st of November, we're asking voters to give a new party a chance, but a new party that's got lots of experience both in local government and in other professions and skills that we would bring into council, so that we can bring real change to the people of Cape Town. Those people who are left behind, they need to be taken care of. We've got communities who don't have the infrastructure that some of us have. We need to build that infrastructure. Where we do have good infrastructure, we need to maintain it. And we're seeing across the city how infrastructure is failing. Sewers are leaking. Property developers have been told that they can no longer get building plans approved because there's no capacity. Parks are broken, and we have the Mako member for Parks with us today. We had a child in Delft die from a piece of park equipment that was broken, not properly maintained. No child should go to a park and come back dead. And so we have to address the disparity in services, the disparity in infrastructure, and we need to invest in infrastructure in order to turn our economy around and to signal to the world that we are in fact a city that is open for business. We don't cancel contracts randomly. We don't abandon calls for proposals randomly. We follow through on them so that we can build a city that everybody is making progress in. But particularly, I think we need to consider the hunger and poverty that exists in our city as a result of unemployment, and how as a city we can address that. And we must address that. That must be one of the first things we address, is the fact that people are actually starving in our city while we have 19 billion rand in the bank. So we're asking voters to give a new party a chance. If we don't give a new party a chance, we'll be complaining about the same things in 5 years' time, but the circumstances will be a lot worse. Let's bring change on the 1st of November. The next opportunity to do so is in 2026. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Brett, here on the air for the Good Party, Fiona Abrams, African National Congress.
Ek dink die DA het hulle geleentheid gehad. Hulle het 15 jaar gehad. Die residents van die Kaap moet net 'n bietjie om hulle kyk en dan gaan hulle sien the Surits, the water bills. So if they don't want to live in the same conditions for the next 5 years, it's up to you, the community of Cape Town, to change your vote. I think the DA has 2/3 majority which they could have used. They could have used it to bring change. They didn't. There's no political will to do it. The ANC has a 10-point plan where we want to start immediately with delivering services to the neglect and the marginalized. We want to have an inclusive city where we start to develop our civil society structures, our NGOs, our community structures. Working with neighborhood watches, working with CPAs to make sure that we tackle crime together with the community, not separate. We want to start by saying that ward allocations can't be equal. How is ward allocations equal in an unequal city? What does the other ward councillors do with their ward allocations? They spend it on dog parks. So we want to bring this change. But City of Cape Town, only the residents can bring that change. So we're asking the City of Cape Town residents to change their vote and no longer be slaves in the City of Cape Town. No longer be punished for being poor, but rather be part of an inclusive city. The ANC is a non-sexist, non-racist, inclusive party. So let's vote on the 1st of November and change the government we're having.
Fiona Abrams there for the ANC. Mr. Fadil.
Yeah, there was a question out there that I'd like to respond to. Where is Jordan Hill-Lewis? There's no way he's going to attend this debate. And you know what his absence is telling? And this is the type of service that we can expect from an incoming mayor, potential incoming mayor, that when we need answers, he will not be available. This is the same man, after all, that in 2016 went to Israel along with John Steenhuisen and Musi Maimani. And Maimani told the lie that, no, we actually did visit Palestine as well. They didn't, because it was a biased trip, because these people are Zionists, unashamed Zionists. We can't have him for a mayor. We can't have his apologists doing the same thing 5 years from now. The Cape Coloured Congress is the only party that has fought for coloured people consistently. Shut down the city for your housing rights. Close down construction sites for your right to work.
There was a WhatsApp that says that, that you're being pretty racist by only focusing on coloured people.
Yes, I will own that badge right now. Because you know what? This is my race. If caring for my race makes me a racist, I've said it to you before, bring me my badge. I'll wear it on my sleeve. This is my people suffering. I've sat here for an hour and a half listening to an educated man make apologies for the crimes committed against poor people and coloured people in particular. I say to the coloured people that if you do not vote wisely, 5 years from now, Zaid Badruddin will be sitting here defending those same crimes against your children. We take this opportunity, we vote together. No more to this. Goodbye to white supremacy, goodbye to the garden boys that comes with it. Thank you.
Fadil Adams there for the Cape Coloured Congress, Dr. Zahid Badruddin for the Democratic Alliance.
So I'm celebrating the fact that over the past 5 years, 40% of households in the city have received water and sanitation services for free. I'm celebrating the fact that over 207,000 people have benefited from over 64,800 housing opportunities delivered by the City of Cape Town. I'm celebrating the fact that I'm sitting here on behalf of the incoming mayor, speaking to you about the successes of the city. And I'm celebrating the fact that I'm sitting here on behalf of the mayor because we've learned from our mistakes in the past. We allow power behind one person to speak on behalf of a caucus. In this instance, the DA that has become after certain politician has left capacitates people to be able to speak with a unified voice on the successes and achievements of a city that is clearly efficient and a city that is clearly working. So my appeal to the residents is, if you want a city that has a proven track record, a city that continues to deliver services, a city that will do more to break the shackles of ESCOM, to make sure that we're able to prevent and overcome blackouts in our city so that businesses can come in and invest. If you want a city that makes sure that businesses come into an environment that supports investments in our city, if you want a clean city of Cape Town, if you want a city that looks after vulnerable individuals, the elderly, the disabled, the homeless, then you must choose the Democratic Alliance. We have a proven track record in terms of the budgets that we've spent, not only for our vulnerable groups, but budgets that are spent across our communities to address the various concerns that are brought to us here in the center of power, the Civic Center. Thanks, Tashrik.
Thank you very much to Councillor Zahid Badruddin. We have to wrap
I have one question.
We have to
It
wrap
doesn't
up.
need to be answered. It's just a question. I have on my left Brett Heron and Councillor Haskins. I was his tailor at one stage. That's how I know him. I worked at his house. But if these two men who live in the suburbs, who were raised under the privilege that apartheid offered, can open their eyes and see the wrongs being perpetrated against people of color, I need to know what the hell is wrong with the man next to me.
The problem here is I have a racist sitting next to me, a racist that refuses to see the successes of the city, a racist that refuses to see that the city of Cape Town invests in communities.
You still haven't answered me.
I'm getting to it. That invests
If
in
white
communities
people can see what your white bosses are doing,
Allow him
what is
please
your
to
problem?
respond. Allow him please to
that
respond.
invests in communities where services are needed the most, a city that makes sure that we will be able to work with communities to protect our infrastructure. That is what is happening here.
The Human Rights Commission has not found me to be a racist, they found him to be a criminal.
My eyes are open because
The
I
Human
come.
Rights Commission did not
My
find him to be a
eyes are
racist,
open
they
because
found
I
him to
come
be a
from
criminal.
these communities. I've seen the success of a DA government in being able to address fundamental issues relating
Like
to
finding
service
homeless
deliveries,
people,
being
like
able
switching
to
off our
invest
water.
in future
Let's
projects to make sure that we are able to prevent droughts from happening, to prevent our sewage systems
You
from
are
collapsing.
nothing but a T-boy,
We
man.
are making
Thank you.
sure that we can
Well,
continue
let's-
to run the city of Cape Town in a responsible manner, and that is what the residents of our city need.
And on that note, we'll end it there. Thank you,
There we
thank you
go.
very much. We'll have to wrap up
Well-
this program.
well
Thank you,
done.
Dr. Zahid Badruddin,
Well done.
for the Democratic Alliance, Fidel Adams for the Cape Coloured Congress, Fiona Abrams for the African National Congress, the ACDP's Grant Haskin here also with us, and the Good Party's Brett Heron. Ending of what has been a very fierce debate in this morning's edition of NRA. We're going to take some pictures, stuff, and we'll post them on social media that you can see what has happened here. We'll also release a video of the debate that will come to you on Monday or Tuesday next week, and you'll get to see exactly what went down here this morning. Thank you very much for what has certainly been a very burning debate, a debate that was long overdue, one that breaks history for on many accounts, bringing all these parties together, but also having the ability to come to council and to the municipal building where the really the seat of power really lies. And we brought this debate here so that we can speak really to the issues that affect you, the listener of Radio 786, the most. From myself, Tashrik Trubadi, Nurinisa Isaac, Zurkaz Saria, Khalil Katrada, Ibrahim Abrams, Ahmad Hassan Saria, the entire team here bringing you this debate this morning. Thank you very much for being with us.